At the moment, our walls in our drawing are looking a little bit bare. We can't really distinguish one from the other, so what we need to do is we need to add some sort of colour, some sort of distinction to our walls so that we can see what they look like. So what we're going to do here is we're going to place some hatching onto the drawing, some cross hatching, so that it shows the section of the walls. Now, we need to create a new hatch layer for this. It's nice and easy. Layers panel here in the Home tab. There's the Layer Properties Manager. And what we're going to do, we're going to click on this icon here, the new layer, and we're going to call it Hatch, so H-A-T-C-H, and press Enter. The Hatch layer has taken on board the properties of the current layer furniture, so it's got the current 44 colour there. So let's click on the 44 for the Hatch layer, and we're going to change that. We're going to make it quite bright. We're going to make it stand out. So I'm going to go for that red there, which is colour 10, and I'm going to click on OK. So my hatch layer now, you can see, is colour 10. Let's make sure it's the current layer by double-clicking next to it. So if I double-click there, you'll see that there's the hatch layer with the green tick as the current layer. I then click here to close the Layer Properties Manager palette, and you'll see that hatch there is the current drafting layer. We now need to go to the hatch command. This is on the Draw panel in the Home tab. I click on hatch here, and it brings up the hatch dialog box. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a predefined hatch pattern that's already in AutoCAD. I've got a list here. Look, if I click here, it gives me a big list of all the hatches, but I don't know what they look like. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click away from that over here. I've got swatches here. Now if I click on this button here, that will open up the palette like so. Or if I click on the swatch itself, that will also open up the palette. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize an ANSI pattern, American National Standards Institute pattern, ANSI 32. It's just a crosshatch. There's also ISO patterns available and lots of other predefined patterns as well for brickwork, for concrete, roofing, parquet flooring, and so on. I just want a basic ANSI 32 crosshatch there. So I click on that swatch there. When I click on OK, you'll see it names the pattern in the box there and gives me a swatch of what it's going to look like. Now, by default, this scale here is normally 1. Now, when I'm working in a metric millimeters drawing, I do not want these lines here of the hatch pattern 1 millimeter apart. That is going to be too dense. It will fill it with a solid block of colour. I don't want that to happen. Roughly speaking, if you're working in a metric millimeters drawing, go for a scale of about 25. That tends to work as a rule of thumb. Now there's lots of different ways of hatching as well. You'll notice here you've got boundaries. The actual command that kicks in when you hatch is bhatch in AutoCAD, which stands for boundary hatch. I can actually pick points within a boundary to select the hatch area, or I can actually select objects themselves. I need to add pick points in this case to pick an internal point inside each part of the wall. So I click on add pick points, but what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make sure that the hatching is associative, so it's associated with the boundary that's been used, but more importantly, each wall section has its own separate hatch. So if I click there, that creates a separate hatch for each hatch boundary. The draw order is that the hatch will go behind the boundary, so I can still select the wall lines that make up the walls before I select the hatch pattern. I now go to add pick points here, and it comes into the drawing and it's prompting me to pick an internal point. Now because I've set separate hatches, I can go in here, get the crosshair in that wall section. It forms a hatch boundary, as you can see there. I go to this one here. It picks the hatch boundary. I'm going to do it for each wall section as I go. Remember the small ones here. That one there. That one there. Again, I'm going to go here. See, it's picking each boundary as I go. I don't need to worry about AutoCAD not finding anything, because I know that all of these walls here are boundaries, because they're all joined together. There's no gaps. If I click there, and I click there. So what I've done there, each one of those is a separate hatch pattern. But the good thing is if I right-click now on the shortcut menu, I can preview that. And as you can see, there's my hatch pattern showing my walls. What I need to do now is read the command line. Pick or press escape to return to the dialog. So if I hit escape now, it takes me back to the hatch and gradient dialog box. If I click on preview, it previews the hatch. I've got the same prompt again on the command line, pick or press escape to return to dialog, or if I right click now just to accept the hatch, My hatch pattern is now complete, and my walls are much more defined on the drawing.